Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Yes, I am Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. There was a little bit of stakes action yesterday we'll take a look at. New York and Woodbine. And then we'll take a break. We'll be joined by our friend Anthony Stabile. They have a nice stakes race tomorrow. The Tin Cup Chalice. It is the last stakes on the Finger Lakes schedule. Still, a week and a half, couple weeks of racing left at the Finger Lakes. But I thought we'd get the Big A in to preview the stakes race tomorrow and maybe a couple other races as well. So that's all coming up. And then we'll wind up a little bit early because, again, there's a 12:10 post down in New York at Aqueduct. And so they'll probably kick off their pregame show 10:40-ish, 10:45 or so. So we'll wrap up a little bit early. However, we will kick off today's show taking a look at some of the stakes action from yesterday. Speaking of which, let me just see if I can quickly pull up, because I did see the last night the buyer figures were out for those. And so let me see if I can pull that up, and then we will inform you of those as we move along here. But we'll kick off, again, two nice stakes yesterday at the Big A. Two more today, 2-year-old features, and talked a little bit about the races with Dave Grenig yesterday. And the stakes action kicked off at Aqueduct on Saturday with the Notebook for 2-year-olds. New York breds going 6 in this race. When we talked to Dave, Wesley Ward had cross-entered 2 fillies. And Dave had written in an article that it looked like he was going to scratch Phoebe in Wonderland for today, and Shoot It True would remain. I liked Shoot It True. Had won the debut down at Keeneland in April, sprinting 4.5. That's a Wesley Ward specialty, and lived up to it in the debut pretty easily, and then came back against the boys. The first time was against the boys again in the Kentucky Juvenile at Churchill, ran 4th there. That was back in May, had been off since then. Now the number in no number in the 4.5 sprint at Keeneland, but the number in the Juvenile was a little light as compared to this bunch. But having taken late spring, the summer off, this horse was eligible to come back and move forward, and I think she did. Shoot It True here, the number 5 horse. Kenny B was also logical. I used Kenny B in the second spot, so we did come up with a cold exacta in here. The disappointment was the number 1, Man in Finance, who eventually went off as the favorite. That was the Danny Gargan horse that Dave Grenig said may just be good enough to win, but Danny Gargan had said they were just using this race as kind of a prep. There's a Stallion Series race coming up in a few weeks for $500,000, and Gargan didn't want to be off that long. But I don't know whether this flatters the horse. That was running 4th there in the pink Randy Hill colors. I don't know if that flattered Man in Finance with a 4th place finish, but did absolutely flatter Shoot It True, the winner. Again, filly facing the boys for Wesley Ward. Frankie Dettori on board, and wins by over 4 lengths. And yes, I do have the buyer figures, a very solid 93. And again, I say it often, when you get lightly raced 2-year-olds or even 3-year-olds, and they've had a little time off, they can often come back much improved. And Shoot It True certainly did, because again, that 4th place finish in the second career start in the Kentucky Juvenile back in May was a 50 buyer. Now jumps up to a 93 on the comeback after taking the summer off and whatnot. So pretty good looking effort from Shoot It True. Wesley Ward with a nice little sprinting filly going forward as the calendar turns to 3-year-old action. We'll have to watch her as well, but that was a pretty good looking performance for the daughter of Munnings. Not bad from Kenny B either. That was only the 3rd career start. Now a nice win, a maiden breaker, and a couple of second place finishes. So Kenny B, be interested to see. I would think they'll stay on path for the $500,000 race with Man in Finance, and let's just see. Maybe this was just, let's maintain the fitness level. We're really looking at that $500,000 down the road, because certainly the the career debut effort was better than we saw yesterday from that one. Take a look now at a little bit later in the program yesterday at Aqueduct, and it was the Central Park. Again, 2-year-old action. This time, the 2-year-olds on the turf. I had Jack and Jim in the mix. My top pick was Not for Hire, who was 6-1 on the morning line, and eventually went off at 7-1, and ran okay. I mean, Not for Hire was out there early, and I thought we were in a good spot. You know, the fractions, 23 and change, 47 and change, 112, and we were on the front, and I thought, you know, we were probably in a good spot here at 7-1. Not for Hire, unfortunately, faded. It was only the second start, so you know, we'll watch that one going forward. But again, had Jack and Jim underneath a little bit off a debut effort that was pretty good for Graham Motion. Manny Franco on board, and Jack and Jim, the number 4 horse, gets it done. It will wind up being a half a length. Smooth Breeze second. Early Adopter, who was the 9-5 favorite, the 9 horse from Chad and Klarovich, winds up third in here with, as you can see, a late run on the outside. But by that time, Jack and Jim had gotten the jump on the next 2. So Jack and Jim gets it done, had a little traffic trouble. So this is one to watch going forward, certainly. Now 2 for 2 for Graham Motion. Manny Franco's been on board both times. Debut effort was at 1 1/16 on the turf. Yesterday was at 1 mile, so has successfully negotiated 2 turns in the first 2 starts of the career. So one to kind of keep our eyes on going forward. In that subdivision, I continue to always say I like quite a bit. 3-year-olds will become a 3-year-old in about a month and a half with the turn of the calendar. And so I think Jack and Jim, again, will be one to kind of keep our eyes on moving forward in the future. All right, there are a couple of stakes up at Woodbine as well, but we'll head to a break and bring in the big A, Anthony Stabile. Before we do that, we'll take a look at those Woodbine stakes in a few. But again, tomorrow at Finger Lakes, there's a stakes race. The Tin Cup Challenge, the last stakes race of the year. And it's a nice field of 2-year-olds. They have 7 scheduled, but it's a nice field. We'll talk about that and more with the big A, Anthony Stabile, right after this. Stay tuned.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
America on this Sunday morning, as noted before the break, joined now by our friend, the big A, Anthony Stabile from the Finger Lakes. A couple more weeks in the season, but the last stakes race of the season is tomorrow. I thought we'd touch on that, the Tin Cup Chalice. We'll hit on that and more. Anthony, good morning.
Morning, Seth. How are you? I can't believe it's over. It's essentially over already.
No, crazy. And I meant to text you a couple of weeks ago, well, now a few weeks back when we were up there, because we had you sit on the set. You did a little handicapping with us. That was fun. And then when you left, normally we'll go up to the booth and hang out for a little while. And Mike McAdam was there. He was up with us at springtime, sports writer for the Gazette here in the area. Rochester native, and he was out visiting family again. And so we had him come in and do some co-hosting. And we were up in the booth with you in the springtime, and the game plan was to go up and spend a little time there. But, man, we were cycling guests through. It was great. It was crazy. We had, obviously, we had Todd Height and Jerry Richards from the Finger Lakes. Had Mike Ferraro sit in. The race before, he got his career best 3,500 wins. That was very good. And we had Ed Fazone from Eddie F's Racing because they had Butta in the feature race. So we didn't get a chance to come up to the booth. I meant to text you and say, sorry, we were going fast and furious up there. But we had a great time with another summer-like day up there. And I will say the New York Breeders' Futurity produced a horse I think we can keep our eyes on with Bold Fortune.
Yeah, Bold Fortune with a heck of a performance that day, real smash mouth performance, and we've had some fun. We've had some fun races, namely the stakes up there this summer. The Oaks and Derby Day with Braid with Caldwell Loves Gold. I joke around even though she got beat in the Oaks, the Queen of Finger Lakes now to me is Sweet Brown Sugar. Was the only time she got beat up there this year, and she won the Jack Better Be Right around the 2 turns, so she proved people wrong about her distance limitations. And I know Paul and Rick and the whole crew are really happy to see that Paul has been pretty steadfast in the fact that she will get 2 turns. She did. Of course, Pandagate would go on to win the Albany after winning the New York Derby. So that was probably and then I almost died in a tornado that day. So it was a pretty eventful first New York Derby for me. But yeah, we've had a lot of fun performances. It's funny. I was joking with my really good friend Andy Berg from Gumster Stable on Wednesday how he has Runaway Joke, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we go over the first race tomorrow. But Runaway Joke finished the season a perfect 5 for 5. Andy claimed him out of Churchill for 20 in the spring, and he sent them up to Ralphie D, and they ripped off 5 in a row. Next year at the Finger Lakes HPPA dinner, I would imagine Runaway Joke is going to be the Finger Lakes horse of the year. But we have 3 fillies and mares in the opener tomorrow, all looking for their 5th win as well. None of them looking to stay undefeated on the season, but up there, up at Finger Lakes. But yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. It's weird. When you go to a small track like this, and the horses, they have we have the 7-month meet. They're going to run more often than horses downstate and at Churchill and stuff. And from my year prior at Yonkers, it was kind of like the thoroughbreds meet the harness because they run an awful lot up there. I've probably called 25 to 40 horses that have double-digit starts in 7 months. So you get really familiar with these horses, and it's just amazing how I remember openings the day before opening day. Me and Mom were driving up the Palisades, making the first trip, and we were talking to you guys. And now here we go. 11 days from throwing 3 pounds of turkey and stuffing down my throat with 6 racing days left.
I can relate to that because turkey is my favorite. I eat turkey probably once a week or twice a week anyway, and so Thanksgiving, one of the favorite meals. I'm looking forward to it myself. But we had talked a couple of weeks ago about it, but just kind of update things. I pulled up Equibase jockey and trainer stats for the year. Kai Barbacoa just having a great meet and clearly is going to wind up number 1. He has 98 wins right now. Luis Perez and Andre Warre tied second and third with 72, and Emmanuel Di Diego and Jackie Davis tied for 4th and 5th with 51 wins. And over on the trainer side of things, Anthony Ferraro, had a chance to meet him too. I met both of the Ferraros the other day when we were up there. He's number 1 with 72, Paul Barrow 52, and Mike Ferraro with 49, Chris Englehart with 47. Mike Ferraro, as I say, we interviewed him just before he said, I have to watch this next race. So if you have a couple of minutes before. And I said, yeah, we'll get you. I understand completely. We'll get you so you can watch the next race. And so we talked to him, got a little fill in on his career and whatnot. It was fun to talk to him. And then he sits in the seat in front of us and watches his horse win for 3,500 career wins. And I went down to the winner's circle and asked for some reaction afterwards. He had a great line. He said, yeah, I was shooting for 3,500. Now I'm going for 5,000. Good for you, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know either junior or senior that well. I got a chance to meet them up there and stuff, and they're wonderful guys. I'm more, I know Paul and Ralph. I know Paul Barrow from down here. I know Ralphie Belisandro for 35 years, Lisa Reed and Chris Prognall. That's more my crew from the Aqueduct Winters. But when you take a look, and I'll say this, I like to break Ralphie's chops because he'll go into the winner's circle with a cigar, and I'll break Paul's chops when he's not there. I don't remember, and I missed 4 weeks due to some illness. But in the other weeks I've been there, I don't remember Ferraro Jr. not being there on a race day. And when you look at what he's done, this has pretty much been since week one. He just ran away with this thing. It's remarkable, but it just goes to show when these horses are 24/7, 366 in this instance, because we're in a leap year. You have to, and Ferraro Jr. especially is a testament to that. He's had a fantastic meet. You talk about the jocks. Caber's on a different level right now. I don't know what. I never like to speculate. I never like to get in somebody's pocket, if you will. But he's a different rider the last 2 years. It's plain and simple. I would ride him. I wouldn't be hesitant to ride him on any horse in any race on any day. He's gotten that good, and he's on the border of 100 wins. He's going to win 100 races. When you consider how dominant he's been, and the fact that you have Andre Worry and Luis Perez also, at knocking on the door of 80. It just goes to show you that it's a really nice little colony up there, and Caber has just been really putting on the show this year.
Yeah, no question about it. As I say, he is clearly the leader and going to wind up at the top of the pack when things wind up in the next couple of weeks. So congratulations there as well. All right, let's take a look at some of the action. Before we take a look at the action, though, I just wanted to tip my cap, too, because I remember him, Tin Cup Chalice, races named for that very good New York bred. And I had the guys pull up the New York Derby from July of 2008. And this was the middle of the sequence, and I pulled up the whole record from Equibase. This was the middle of the sequence, and I believe back then it was the New York Triple. I think he was still that was still a thing, and he put all three together.
Triple, yep.
Exactly. But Mike Lee at Belmont, he wins this. We're watching him win the New York Derby here. Then comes up to Saratoga and wins the Albany a little later in the season. Again, as a New York bred, goes out and wins the Indiana Derby. Winds up with 8 wins and 10 career starts. Mike Lassesi, the trainer. So I just wanted to tip my cap to that one because I remember Tin Cup Chalice.
And horses like Tin Cup Chalice, right? They kind of paved the way for the New York bred because he was good open. He competed open company. When you think about it now, Handegate won 2 of the 3 old Big Apple Triple races this year, our New York Derby and then the Albany at Saratoga. He didn't run in the Mike Lee because he was still recovering from a trip, finishing 3rd to Forever Young in Dubai.
Yeah.
So think about where the program has gone in the last quarter of a century. Horses like Tin Cup Chalice, obviously Funny Side. The first one that I really remember thinking these horses aren't. A lot of people used to say, "Oh, it's New York bred." Say Florida Sandy is the first one that I feel really started bringing these horses because you had Fiorito, the only other horse buried in the infield at Finger Lakes, along with Tin Cup Chalice is Fiorito. Fiorito was 15, 20 years before, say, Florida Sandy and Funny Side. But then, say, Florida Sandy came along and Funny Side came along, and you had a couple of mares. Board Eligible was one that I remember winning on Belmont Stakes Day, and it was all right, well, this program needs to be taken seriously now. And it's been nonstop. The New York bred breeders and everybody, Naja Thompson and everybody over there just, full steam ahead. and it's been great to watch and great to see. And we honor Tin Cup Chalice and his fellow New York Reds tomorrow afternoon as we wrap the stake season.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. He was one of those that set the stage for now New York bred program where these horses, you have a good New York bred, you're in good shape because you can bounce back and forth, face open company, but there are rich New York bred stakes. And yeah, mentioning Fiorito and Mike Ferraro, when I interviewed him, Mike Ferraro, of course, the trainer, and I said, for me, that was kind of the first New York bred that maybe launched the program and made people take notice at least, because I can remember Fiorito breaks through the starting gate and then goes on to win the Whitney under Les Hewlett from the Finger Lakes. So Fiorito for me was certainly a memorable one as well. And again, ties into Mike
and
Ferraro.
Jim Aquilano, who rubbed Fiorito, got his 2000th win. At the meet this year. So I think he's up to 2002, actually. Jim's a really good guy, his brother Gary. So, these are people that have been up there their entire lives.
Yeah.
So it's great to see, them not only dominating, but actually having some horses. Ferraro Jr. won a race at Saratoga. He's won races at Aqueduct now. He's bringing horses back and forth. So, winter comes and you'll see Paul's name, you'll see Ralph's name. You'll see Mike's name down here in the winter at Aqueduct.
Very good. All right, let's move over to taking a look at the race. And again, last stakes race of the season tomorrow afternoon. It's race number 8, the Tin Cup Chalice. These are 2-year-olds going 6 furlongs. Nice little field in here. I pulled up a replay of the Maiden Breaker and the career debut for the Engelhart horse, Blaymaker. Gets it done pretty easily. Off of this race, he's certainly going to take plenty of attention. But the aforementioned Paul Barrow and Richie Rich, they have Mr. Sugar Daddy, who I think has the shot to rebound after the little bit of a dull performance in the off-track second start of the career, moving into Stakes Company again on the off-track. I would expect a rebound from Mr. Sugar Daddy. No Factor is interesting with it's Mike Ferraro and the aforementioned Kaibar Koa. How did you see things in the Tin Cup Chalice?
It's hard for me to make the 4 Sobieski or the 5 Not For Nothing. One of my favorite names to say up there, obviously. But the rest of them, this is a fun field. I went to Paul's horse. I went to Mr. Sugar Daddy. He did not like the slop one bit last time. Rail slop. I'm completely tossing the race. If he comes back to his debut in August, he's had 3 months now to come back and circle around to that number. I think he'll beat these horses. I think he can move up off that race. And I'll tell you another thing, Seth. 3 of the 4 in here, 3 of the 7 in here have speed, but from the outside draw and the other speed being the 1 No Factor and the 2 Blaymaker, I think he's got to completely trip out here, just sitting, right behind or right off the speed, if you will, with Jeremiah Flores, and just making the 1 run. Paul's numbers with 2-year-olds are amazing. He wins at 30% with 2-year-olds, and this horse really ran well on the fast track on debut. And then I'm just throwing the last race out. So I like him. The 1 No Factor, Stephen Frett is going to stay on Cast a Coin for Jackie Falk. It's a gutsy move getting off Ferraro Senior, but he rides almost everything for Jackie Falk. Like to see the loyalty go both ways there. They'll just put Kaibar Koa on No Factor in here. Had a brutal debut. And I think she got a lot out of her debut. She's trying the boys in here. I think that's why the morning line's a little inflated. She's coming back quick. And off of her win last time, and we're going to talk about Kitty O'War in a minute. She's in race 6 tomorrow. I think No Factor can get a piece of this. Blaymaker's probably the favorite I'm going to fade in here. I don't really like the bunch he beat first time out. And I'll probably fade him. And then we talked about Stephen Frett, Cast a Coin. Showed speed in his debut. He got beat by Ferraro and King's Leap, who came back to run 3rd in the Aspirant. He broke his maiden really impressively on a sloppy track last time out. And he was 1-5. He was supposed to win. But he won the right way. He improved his speed figure. He's another one. I think he's better on fast ground. I think he'll improve tomorrow as well. He's 5-2 on the morning line, but I don't think that'll stick. I think he'll be a little bit higher. So I got the race 7-1-3. and we'll see if Mr. Sugar Daddy can get back to that fast track and get the job done.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. As you say, no factor of Philly facing the boy for Barry Schwartz. So interesting race, interesting field in there. The feature tomorrow, the 8th race, the Tin Cup Chalice. All right, let's take a look at a couple others that you've mentioned also. We'll take a look at the first race, optional claimer starter allowance, 5.5 furlongs, a field of 7 entered in the opener tomorrow. What did you see?
Right next to each other, the 2 Boston Roxy, the 3 Lindsay, and the 4 Grand Lady Indy have every single one of them won 4 races at Finger Lakes this year. On the year, I should say. Grand Lady Indy only won 3. But Lindsay and Boston Roxy all won 4 races this year. Boston Roxy's kind of fallen off form, but she's going to drop to the lowest level of her career. And she has just a ton of early speed. She's the speed of the speed. You got Bonfire Diva on the far outside. She's looking for her 4th win of the season up at the Lakes, and she really has turned it around in her last 2 starts. She won 5 2 years for a dated 5, and then she won our starter, like our claiming Crown Day. She romped. She paid $52 with Gabacoa, and she was never in doubt from the bell. She beat a nice little mare in War Tap as well. So they're the 2 I'll look at. Bayou Melody. Jonathan Buckley's a name we don't hear. That doesn't get a lot of press up there. But, man, his horses always look great. They always come out swinging. Bayou Melody, she just didn't fire last time. It was a 4-horse field, but she just did not fire. It was the allowance race, and it is what it is. She's back in for the starter optional here, and she's eligible for the optional. I think she'll be tough as well. But I think Boston Roxy ended the year on the right note, dropping to the lowest level, going wire to wire.
All right, let's take a look now at race number 6 tomorrow. It is a group of maiden specials, 2-year-old fillies going 3/4 of a mile. This one is a nice field, full field of 9, couple also eligibles in there as well. What did you see in race number 6?
Yeah, the third of 4 2-year-old races, including the stakes race on the card tomorrow, is made a decision a couple of weeks back to limit the 2-year-old races to a field of 9. So that's why you see the 2 AEs here as well. Andy Berg, Gumpster Stable, Kitty of War. Like I said, I think he has the Finger Lake Horse of the Year in Runaway Joke. This filly shipped in from Delaware. Made a couple of starts to former trainer Darian Rodriguez, stays with Ralphie D now for the last couple of weeks in the meet. No factor, kind of blitzed her last time, and just went wire to wire on her for this second. 2 starts back, Queen Atlas. That was the first of 2 Englehart debuters, followed by Blamaker. Kitty of War won on a Wednesday or Tuesday. I'm sorry, Queen Atlas won on a Tuesday, I believe, and then Blamaker came back and won right after that. Queen Atlas paid like $55 that day. Another one just went to the lead and blitzed her. She had a bit of a tough trip after getting banged around at the start. I think she's in the right spot now, and if she can get away from there cleanly, which shouldn't be a problem, I think she'll be right. There's also not a lot of speed in here, so I wouldn't be too surprised if the tactics were changed a little bit and they were a little bit more aggressive with her coming out of the starting gate. I like Kitty of War. You have a horse coming up from Naira, a former Bill Mott trainee named Practically Summer, who will probably take money. Again, she's my fave in the race. I don't want anybody coming from Bill Mott, really. No offense to whoever has to a deal con. But I'm going to take my chances if the horse is leaving Bill Mott. I'm going to take my chances and stay at 4-1 on the morning line. The other horse in the race would be the 2 Country Manor. Mike Lassesi added blinkers last time, and she came running along nicely at almost 5-1. It was her first track. It was her first try with the blinkers. It was her first try back on a opened up fast track, and I thought she ran well. I think it was the best race so far, and I think she has room to improve too. So I like Kitty of War, the number 5 with a little 2 Country Manor.
I like it. So there are some ideas for tomorrow, including the stakes race, the Tin Cup Chalice. Again, winding up the stakes season, but still a couple of weeks left in the Finger Lakes season overall. And Anthony, we haven't talked to you since the Breeders' Cup, and I've been asking everybody the last couple of weeks. impressions. The fact that 3-year-olds ran 1, 2, 3 in the Classic, I think, just emphasizes it was a year where the older division has struggled to put somebody in the forefront. But it made for a good conversation for the 3-year-old Eclipse. Torpedo Anna, I think, stamped herself Horse of the Year. Flavian Prop probably with his victories winds up Jockey of the Year, you would have to think. So some of the honors were decided, some not so much. But what were your takeaways from the Breeders' Cup?
What's the Breeders' Cup? They have one of those this year. I was basically non-existent at it, so I'm trying. It's like a bad memory. I'm trying to just forget all about it. I didn't pick a winner, so I have this very off the wall. I don't think it's that off the wall, and I hate to be a conformist. I don't think Fierceness ran that much better, if at all, than Sierra Leone did. And I no longer have my vote because, in my opinion, the Eclipse Awards have ridiculously become a popularity contest. It was always bad, but for some reason, the last 3 or 4 years, I just felt like it got to a ridiculous point. So I'm not a member of the Turf Riders, and I don't vote anymore. I kept my Hall of Fame vote. I think Sierra Leone's the Horse of the Year.
Oh.
He danced every important dance a 3-year-old is supposed to dance. He ran in the Kentucky Derby. He ran in the Belmont Stakes. He ran in the Travers. He ran in the Breeders' Cup. And he showed up every single time. I know they went fast in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I get it. He's the only horse that really came closing. So I don't want to get the face fall apart because it didn't really fall. He was the only horse that really made up any substantial ground.
Yeah.
I don't think I am steadfast in the fact that if you are a filly or mare, you need to win a race against boys. I don't care that she beat Sierra Leone a length in the Travers. You have to win a race against boys. I'm not going to hold her distaff against her, but I'm certainly not going to go stand on a soapbox and say, she beat all the fillies in there. Raging C, who comes from Schuylerville, had a chaser and held second. So I'm going to look at that. I'm going to look at 100 bias speed figure. Let's be honest. The only reason she got 100 is because they don't want to give the distaff anything less than a triple-digit figure. That race was terrible. She's not particularly fast, and she never won a race against boys. And then Fierceness's Derby, in my eyes anyway, and this is part of the reason I stopped voting because it just doesn't. My think tank just doesn't. Nobody conforms to it or believes in it. You can't run that poorly in the Derby and have a horse that you face on a regular basis all year long in Sierra Leone outshine you on Derby Day and in the Classic and get the nod over him. Yeah. I'm sorry, you just can't do it. So I would vote for the horse who's probably going to finish third in the voting. And I can make the absolute strongest case for him because you can't bring Torpedo Anna. I mean, go look at the horses Torpedo Anna has beaten up until the distaff. And tell me with regulatory risk. Does anybody even know where she is? This is horse that ran third at the Kentucky Oaks. Just FYI on the bench. The horses she beat in the Cotillion were life and death in the Mother Goose. And everybody's just anointing her a Horse of the Year. I think it's an absolute joke.
It is going to be interesting. I'm going to be interested to see how the 3-year-old. Well, right after the race, I thought I want to see the votes after the 3-year-old Eclipse because I think it's going to be close. But as we get a couple of weeks out, it seems like Sierra Leone is clearly getting the tilt on the 3-year-old side of things. So I think it's going to shake out. Yeah. So I think it's going to shake out that way. Anthony, got to go.
He doesn't have a holy bull.
Yeah.
You got it, Seth.
Yeah. We got to go, but we appreciate the conversation here and, the conversation throughout the season. We appreciate the hospitality you all showed us a couple of weeks ago when we were up there. And, hopefully our future visits have continued to have that weather. Our last 2 October visits, it was like summertime and great crowds. And again, we had a fun time up there a few weeks ago, where we were cycling in all kinds of guests. It was a lot of fun. So appreciate the visits this season. Good luck over the last couple of weeks here. Give our best to everybody out there. We'll talk again.
I think I could speak for everybody at Finger Lakes Gaming and Racetrack in thanking you for the support and everybody at Capital OT. So thank you once again, and look forward to seeing you next year.
Appreciate it. Anthony Stabile from the Finger Lakes. Again, they're wrapping things up over the next couple of weeks, but nice day tomorrow with that last stakes race of the season, the Tin Cup Chalice. I'm going to wrap things up here. I will mention, though, I had called for the replays of the Woodbine races, but I see the NYRA pregame show. They have the graphic up, so that'll start shortly. So I'll just say in the autumn yesterday, it was Wicked Django. Paramount Prince, last year's King's Plate winner, was interesting, certainly. But is the 3-1 second choice, winds up last in the field of 8. So Paramount Prince, a little bit of a dud. But Wicked Django is kind of interesting as the longest shot on the board, $50. His trainer, L. Rodney Barrow, had to look at Equibase for the first name because it just says L. Barrow, and I'm not familiar with him. But it was his first win of the season up there. So he scores his first win in a Grade 2, gets it done at a big price in the autumn with Wicked Django. And No Balls and Patches O'Houlihan in the Kennedy. Patches O'Houlihan, who we had talked about with Robert Tiller when we were up there, his trainer, had a fabulous season, and in fact went off as the 95 cent to $1 favorite. Second choice was No Balls, who ships in off a race previously at Keeneland. He had won last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint for Larry Ravelli. And No Balls gets it done by 3/4 of a length. Good stretch duel with Patches O'Houlihan there in the Kennedy yesterday. So there are some results from Woodbine. And as I say, we'll wrap it up because, again, it's a 12:10 post at Aqueduct. Don't forget Churchill today. Oh, and I will say, yesterday I was pushing the super high five with the mandatory and the carry. Let me see if I can pull up the results just very quickly. They haven't started yet in New York. And when I saw the results, I have to admit I felt bad. There was a super high five carryover with a mandatory at Woodbine, and I pushed it all day long because I know people like the mandatory payouts, and it just wound up crazy. And I always say with these mandatory payouts, I wish they would have races that it winds up to be 79-1 over 20-1 over 3-1 over 21-1 over 15-1, and so the super high five, $130,000 for, and that's for 20 cents. And so, a handful of people wind up getting a huge. And I'm always, these mandatories, I used to play the Rainbow down at Gulfstream quite a bit because if it got up to a certain amount, even a consolation payoff could be okay. So you could put together a $40 ticket and wind up with $600 or $800, $1,200. And then the sequence is just, they seem to make them a little tough. But on mandatory days, they would really make it tough. And I think the track thinks, well, this looks great if we can say a $100,000 payoff. Oh, I think it's much better, and it's much better PR if you get a slew of people who wind up with $1,500 or $2,000, and that's going to all go back into the pool too. So again, I was a little bit. I felt bad that I pushed this on a sequence that. Although if somebody out there was listened and had it, who knows? Maybe in our audience. In that case, I feel good. But again, that wound up to be a tough sequence. But I bring it up because, and I'm just going to see if I can come up with the actual amount here. There's a late pick 5 carryover down at Churchill today. And I'm just trying to pull up Churchill's Twitter feed. And there it is. Pick 5 carryover begins in race 5, the pick 5 at Churchill today. Race 5 is the kickoff leg, and there's over $250,000 in the pool. And I know people like the pick 5, like when there's a carryover like this, and money floods in. So keep that in mind today at Churchill. Pick 5, $250,000 carryover, kicking off in race 5 today at Churchill. All right, one more reminder before we go. Football Sunday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Come on down, enjoy all the football action and all the racing action. Grab a little lunch at our food vendor, the Black Bear, and Have a fun afternoon. Football Sundays throughout the NFL season. Watch the horse, play the horses, watch the games, and have some fun. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, they have the graphic up, and I would expect the pregame show to kick off any moment down in New York. 12:10 post time at Aqueduct. I'll be back around noontime or so. So a little more than an hour. We'll be back with OTB Live for a Sunday afternoon. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.